Good afternoon, everybody, or good morning, depending on your time zone. Thank you so much for taking time today to attend this webinar about business and IT data and statistics research. So I wanted to introduce myself and say hi, because I know we don't get to do a lot of face-to-face, but I am Audrey Butler-Swinson, and I am the liaison librarian to the College of Management and Technology. So you might have seen my face if you're a residency student, if you've gone to residencies. Or if you've been on the business and management or IT pages in the library, there's my pictures in there too. So I won't have my video on the whole time. It's just to say a quick hello. Just a couple of items here. Just know that the webinar will be recorded. To anybody who registered, regardless if you have a buddy who registered but they couldn't show up, just know that they also get a recording. You'll get a follow-up email from us in the next 24 hours with a link or an attachment to the recording. And then two of the guides that we're going to be looking at in the library will be linked in the follow-up email today. So you don't have to worry about trying to find them and bookmark them today. Just know that they will be in the follow-up email. Otherwise, I mean, you can search the library and they should be pretty easy to pop up. But just know that they will be sent out. So don't stress out about too much about like, did I get to the right page? Do I have to bookmark it right now? You will get a follow-up with that information. So one last thing, so I was going to go through and do a little run through before my webinar, which I've done numerous times before, and realized that some of my favorite government website resources have changed or have gone bye-bye. So we're going to do a little bit of impromptu work through today, so you might get a little bit of like a sneak peek on me getting used to some of that content too. Hopefully we're still able to find some of the really nitty gritty stuff. And then of course the content that we're going to go through in the actual library will be the same. So when I'm going through this webinar, just note, please do put, if you have a question along the way, put it in the questions box. If you need me to repeat something, if you need me to slow down, if you need me to clarify something, please do put that in the questions box. Totally not a problem. The only questions that I might not get to are, if they're not super related to this webinar, or if they're really in depth and they might take, 10 to 15 minutes to do a response. We only have an hour today. Or if it's not, maybe again, super relevant to the topic today, I can always follow up with you directly, and I'll do that to whatever email address you use to register register for the webinar today. So I'll go ahead and pull myself out of the video. Again, thank you for coming to the Introduction to Business and IT Statistics, Data and Statistics Research webinar today. And let me move on to our agenda. We're going to be going through library resources, and actually that'll probably be one of the last things we go through, but it'll be something we cover today. What to be aware of, library statistic resources, government statistics, and search tips. And those search tips are going to go and cover most of those sections. Like we'll be doing a search in a business database, so you can kind of figure out how to look for different data and statistics in a general database. If you're trying to find an article that's talking about a data or statistic point, search tips for government, government content. And of course, we have one stats database that we'll be talking about today. Some of you have heard of it, but it's called SageStats, and we'll go in there and play around a little bit. I'm not going to talk super fast, but we might have extra time at the end if anybody has questions. Otherwise, I will let you guys go about your day, because I know people are probably pretty busy. And hopefully all of you are safe and healthy, and I hope you stay that way. Again, during the presentation, if you have questions, please put them in the questions box. All right, so I'm going to pop out of that. I've got my little handy dandy note box here, but I don't think I'll need it right away. So before I dig into any content, I just wanted to welcome you to the library homepage. Hopefully many of you have already been here. If you need help with anything, if you're looking for full text, know that you can contact us at Ask a Librarian in the upper right-hand corner. So we have different ways that you can contact us, email, chat, voicemail. If you're a doctoral student, you can make an appointment with me, and it doesn't have to be me. So if you aren't in the College of Management Technology, you can grab another college here and then find your program and make an appointment with that liaison. If you are in my college, but maybe your research really focuses on education, you can always make an appointment with an education librarian too. So don't hesitate to do that. You don't have to stay within that area. But I wanted to point that out before we dig into any of the actual content. So the first thing I want to show you in the library is our data and statistics page. So I can walk through how to get to this page, but I did link it in the follow-up email to you guys. So I'm not going to worry about spending time trying to find it through the web page because we have to go through start your research. If anybody really wants me to do that, I can, but I promise it will be in the follow-up email tomorrow. So some of this is what we'll be covering today. As I was saying earlier, some of my favorite resources have died, and they're actually still linked in this page, which I will update later today once the webinar is over. But for the things that we're talking about today, you know, the content in here is still relevant. One of the things that I point out when we're talking about statistics and data is to differentiate between data sets and then just looking at data and statistics. So data sets, you know, is raw data or data that you're going to end up using for your own research in your own, you know, totally separate from just looking up like government statistics or looking for statistics in articles. And actually, that's not entirely true. So some government pages will have data sets, but I just want to point out that we're not going to talk about data sets so much today. But if you have questions about looking for data sets, there is information on here. The CRQ has a database called ICPSR that is linked on this page. So if you want to go look at that database, you certainly can. It's just controlled by the Center for Research Quality. And if you need help with looking for data sets in that database, you can email them. And if you click on this, it'll take you to their page and you can find their contact information. But again, I'm not going to really talk about data sets because that's more of their wheelhouse. But I can give you some guidance. Oh, okay, it looks like there is a question in there about data sets, and I promise I will follow up with you one-on-one, and I'll give you some suggestions and I'll give you a link to who to reach out to, or at least an email address so you can get some help with that. Or you can make an appointment with me and we can kind of work it out that way too. There's a couple of different places we can look at, especially looking for data sets. But for right now, we're not going to super focus on that. We're going to be doing more of like, if you're a DBA student looking at your problem statement, trying to find data and statistics for your problem statement, that's more of what we'll be working on today. Kind of that focus, not so much on the data sets. But again, for the student that put that in the questions box, I will reach out to you one-on-one and I'll give you some ideas and some suggestions on where to go for that. So the next section we have here is statistics and data by topic. And here is the section I was talking about. We have a bunch of the more popular US government departments, websites listed here. My absolute favorite resource that they had was American FactFinder, and they just retired it today. So it was excellent timing on my behalf. I thought I had until later this summer. I was wrong. But I did find their alternative, which I will replace this with. They have something called data.gov, and it has some of the same functionality, and we'll go over that today. But I wanted to point out this page just because if you're researching something that's kind of broad that might cover a couple different topics, each one of our programs has a bunch of links that are going to be helpful for looking up data and statistics, and then in some cases, especially in health sciences, data sets. But if you're not sure of which one to dig into, you can certainly search on this top search bar. So what this top search bar does is it's actually going to search every single link that's on this page. So if you're like, oh, I don't know if I should look in US Census for this, or you know, maybe not, you know, Federal Bureau of Prisons, depending on what you're researching. If you don't know which one to start with, you can come in here and just type in a broad topic. For this search, we're probably going to get a lot from the Bureau of Labor Statistics because it's talking about turnover, but it'll take you a bunch of, you know, different pages through the BLS so that you can kind of get an idea of which section to dig into to get answers or information regarding what you're hoping to find. So that's what that top search bar is, because we recognize that that's, searching through websites is time consuming and it's not always clear like where you should start and how things are indexed. So this top search bar is there to help you. And again, if you need clarification on like digging through things in different government websites, or you're trying to figure out which website might be best, you can come here, search, or later in the webinar, we'll be talking about doing a general Google search, and I'll run a demo for that. Or, of course, you can email us or make an appointment, and we can certainly talk with you one-on-one. Okay. Oh, and before I even dig into the next section of searching for statistics and articles, which is something that we'll demo after we go through the actual government websites, is just know that the government departments and organizations, most of the time they're tracking the what for the data and not the why. So they're going to the example I use pretty often is they're going to track business closure, right? But they're not going to tell you why they closed. They're just going to say in 2017 there were 30,000 retail stores in this metro area, and by the end of the year there was 29,000. But they're not going to tell you why those 1,000 businesses closed. So there's not a lot of why. It's just that blank data. So that's something to think about when you're searching through government websites. Is am I looking for a what or for a why? When you're looking for the why, peer-reviewed articles are going to be your friend. And you can still search through government websites for the why. It just might be harder to find, or it might not be there. And I'll show you what I'm talking about a little bit further down. So let's go on to this next section. So we're going to search for statistics articles. And so this is something that we'll cover a little bit later. This is pretty broad. Obviously, this is a little bit focused on education, but you can certainly search for statistics and data in articles. And I'll go through some keywords that I tend to use. There's data and statistics here, but I think for business, a lot of times the questions that students have is the cost, the profit, closure, turnover, percentage, the terms that you're really focusing on that are going to help you find those articles that are actually looking for those data or discussing those data points. So that's something that we'll come back to. But I just wanted to go over what this guide is and then explain that some of this content will, if you need to come back to it after this webinar, it's here for you. So if anybody has questions about this guide, let me know. We're going to hop into the Census website just because most of the content we're going to talk about today is linked in there. And let me just make sure I haven't missed anything on questions. Okay. Excellent. Okay, so I've opened up the census page, which was linked here in the databases or data by topic here. So US Census is at the top, and actually I think the US Census Bureau is linked in most of the program areas below. So again, I apologize, this isn't as going to be as clean as I would have liked just because they did move some stuff around. But I wanted to show you the few different areas that you can go into the US Census to help you find specific content. So they do have a browse by topic section. So depending on what you're researching, you can come in here and kind of go by that. For demoing today, business and economy is probably going to be our friend. So they kind of have it. Some of these are going to be tables that are covering different areas. And the other thing to keep an eye out is some of this stuff is only collected certain years, so it might not be as new as it is you're hoping. So if you were looking for, I think this is the one I was hoping to find, business and data and statistics here, business and workforce dynamics. Actually, yeah, this isn't quite it. But if you were looking for, how employment works within different businesses, this would be a great place to go. They have a lot of different content linked within here. If you want to learn more about it, it's linked here on the left-hand side. I'm going to go back out of there. So I don't think I'm going to click on these. I think the last thing I want to do, let me just make sure I've had my notes here. Most of the stuff I wanted to go under is actually the survey programs. But I think because small business is a very popular topic. I bet I have 1 in 4 students talking to me about small business or nonprofit. Let's click on that section. So today, you can come here and look at the small business section, or you can go to the SBA website, the Small Business Association's website. I don't think the SBA has their data. It's not as publicly easy to find as it is here. So you can come in here and do like get to know your customers. If you click on that, they'll give you some resources you can look at. There's my buddy FactFinder, which has gone bye-bye. You guys don't even know how sad I am about that. I really loved that resource. But the one I do really like is the Start Your Planning. And you can do it by the Small Business Edition or the Regional. Either one's fine. I'll just demo this left one for you. I think this is pretty cool. So once in a while, I have a student who, they want to survey certain businesses within a certain zip code. And this is a great resource to do that in. So you could come in here and click on your area. We'll just say gas stations. And then you enter in, I'll just use Minneapolis because that's where I live. And hopefully I have to move something out of the way to make this work because I can't see the full page. Great. And then we're just going to click on Create Report. Great. And then we'll scroll down and they give you a lot of different information that you can pull from. Socioeconomic, demographics, housing, business summary information, lots of cool stuff. The other thing they had here was go to a map, which I really like too, because it gives you an idea of where all these businesses are and then, or like where you're looking at. So my zip code that I put in here is downtown Minneapolis, and here it is kind of pulled apart, and I'll show you where it's at, and it gives you kind of some of the information that we were discussing here too. So that's pretty cool. You can change the map variables, change your industry from here. So that small business search it's a really cool resource that they have. Just again, like when I search through the SBA website, I have a harder time finding content, and I'll show you a shortcut for that later in the webinar. So out of there. So the next section I wanted to show you is the Explore data. I don't think they re-index their stuff in here. So you have a couple of different options as to explore data main or look at data tools and apps. If you click on explore data main, it's going to give you the option to go to do a full search, right? Like, what are you looking for? What are you hoping to find? And you could run a search. But they do have a link to datacensus.gov. So this, I think, is going to be my new buddy. Is talking about American FactFinder, and this is a very similar setup. I'm not as sure about the functionality of it yet because I haven't spent as much time playing with it. But you can come in here and search. I actually suggest doing an advanced search. And what this does is it kind of walks you through a guided search on whatever you're hoping to find. So if you click on topics, you can look at business and economy, narrow it down further if you would like to, if you're again looking at small business, and then you could say small business, or you could look at establishments, you could look at single or multi-unit firms. We'll just click on business. And then if you were looking for a geographic location, if you're looking at a region, if you just wanted to do the Northeast, the West, South, if you're looking by state, you could pick a specific state. We'll pick on Arizona because they're at the top. And then if you had specific years that you were hoping to find, again, earlier, like I said, not all data is going to be available for the newest year. So, I mean, 2017, 2016, if you're planning on to graduate, just make sure you're giving yourself some buffer here. So we'll say 2017, 2016. Oh, it's not going to let me do both. So we got 2017. We could do by survey. I'm not going to do that just because I don't want it to totally kill our search. And then if you wanted to come in here and narrow it down by codes. So we'll talk about NAICS a little bit. I don't mess with these quite as much, but I'm sure there's built-in search options for them. So Maybe some of you have heard of NAICS codes, some of you have not. A lot of times you'll see the NAPCS codes along with them. The North America Industry Classification System, I think that's what that stands for. Yes, okay, good. There's so many acronyms in this world. So what this does is the US government, and I think it's an agreement between Canada, Mexico, and the US, but I'd have to go back and double check. But they have indexed all the industries and sub-industries by specific code. So if you can figure out what your code is, you can search by that, especially if you're looking at a very specific industry. And we'll go over that. But we have a pretty good set of filters set in right now, and it'll show you here at the bottom, small business, Arizona 2017. So pretty broad, but hopefully that'll give us, oh, sorry, I didn't see your comment. Somebody was hoping I would pick Connecticut, but I didn't see that fast enough. I apologize. But we can certainly rerun it. I'll go back and see if we can change the state. But it gives you the information that you can sift through. It'll show you all the different tables if you want to. I'm not going to click on that. It gives you a map, some of the sub-content, and any subsequent pages that might be talking about what you're hoping to find. So, I think that's pretty cool. If you click on tables, here are all your tables on the left-hand side. If you just want to look at your map, great. And then here are the pages that they had. So there's a lot of different ways to look at this. So I'm going to head back to that main page. We'll do a Connecticut search for that student. Hopefully it lets me go back and alter that. So let's take Arizona out and do Connecticut search. Great. So we're looking at small business in Connecticut in 2017. So we've got all sorts of stuff here: partnerships, government, nonprofit. Looks like a lot of subtables that we could look at, looking at it by establishment size. Oops, that's what I get for clicking around, right? Okay. So there's a lot of different ways that you can sort this, probably dig into each table. So just know that that's here as an option. So this has been my my replacement for American FactFinder this morning. Yeah, you'll see that was a very popular question. When will American FactFinder go away? I think people really did love that resource. So, and honestly, I think they did. It's decent the way that they set this up. So, while we're in here, let's take a look at those codes, because I think that'll kind of feed into my next topic. And then we'll go into the other data sections that they have that I think will be useful for you guys. So I'm going back to that code section and talking about the NAICS codes. So they kind of have the broader NAICS codes listed here. Let's click on this one. Or is it not going to let me do that? Oh, bummer. Okay, so I thought they would for sure let us do a search for a specific NAICS code. Let's see if they could let me do that here. No, it did not. Lame. Okay. Sorry, guys. I for sure thought they were going to let me do that. It's just going to search all of them. That's too bad. Okay. Yeah, American FactFinder would let you search by your exact NAICS code. So what I'll do is I'll just skip that for right now, but I will show you what NAICS code is, because we can use those NAICS codes in the databases as well when you're searching for articles. So I already have this page open. So North American Industry Classification System. It's a lot of words for just a simple way of saying that we have given unique identification numbers to industry codes or industry areas. So if we were looking at, it's funny, I had a student a while back, it was researching beauty salons. So I'm going to borrow her topic and search by that particular term. And then if you find the one that you're looking for, so we've got beauty salon construction, probably not what we want unless you were looking at that specifically, but beauty salons is probably what we're hoping to find. If you click on that, it'll narrow it down even further. So maybe we really want to focus on barbershops or places that have estheticians. But what you notice here is that all the NAICS codes are the same. So a lot of times when you come in here, some of these subtopics will have a separate NAICS code that falls under the main one. Let's see if we can do another one. We'll say retail, since that's really broad. And so you'll see, okay, under retail, we've got a ton of different options here. Let's do web retailers. Hopefully this is a better example. It was last year or the last previous year. So you'll see the old NAICS code has different versions. Don't worry about the 2012 or 2007. The databases are going to be indexed for 27, or at least they should be. It looks like they're just giving a uniform NAICS code. So we'll come back to this and I'll show you, how we can use that in the databases, and maybe we'll find a couple of other places in the U.S. Census website that'll give us a reason to use it. So I'm going to head back. Well, it's not going to take me all the way back. So we're going to go all the way back to the general U.S. Census website. And the next section I want to show you here is the survey and programs. So let me just make sure I click on the right one. County. Okay. So the ones that I went through that I think are probably the most relevant are going to be the annual business survey, the county business patterns, and the statistics for U.S. businesses. But I think, some of these might still be very relevant to you depending on what you're researching. So let's start with the annual business survey. If you just want to look at their data, or if you want to look at they always have news underneath here related to whatever topic they've got or their survey that they've released. You click on data. They have tables here. Oops, I did not mean to click on that. Well, maybe they'll let us look at their interface. Nope. Like I said, they really threw me through a tizzy this morning. Okay, so let's take a look at characteristic of businesses. Oh, fun. Oh, guys, just so you know, this happens to us all the time. I spend so much time looking, oh my gosh. Okay, so I guess we're not looking through their data yet since it's not available. But in theory, most of this should be available. Let's go back and click on county business patterns. Hopefully in the next year, they'll have the data available, or maybe it's just getting analyzed now. Great. So these should have, you'll notice that there's tables with information and data sets. I'm not going to dig into the data sets, but I will click on the CBP tables. And you can come through it and go by date, and it'll give you information regarding the county business patterns. I don't think that they're going to give you the option to narrow it down by zip code. Let's see if we have older content here. We can click on. Great. So, they'll let you organize this by field here. You can download it. I'm sure you can shift your filters on here. Look at geography if you want to. So a lot of these should be interactive, and a lot of them you should be able to just download as a table. It just depends on what you have open. So they have the download option here, but if you wanted to look at these specifically, you could say, click on that one, download, check it out. So we got that. And then let's do the statistics of US businesses. Great. Again, tables and data sets. I swear these used to have a search function, so I'm blown away that I'm not getting the same content. Great. Okay, so at least there are actual data tables that you can look at. Looks like they're organized by NAICS code or industry, or if you can look at geographic location. So let's click on one of them. Some of these are huge, like really, really big, and some of them are smaller. The ones that are usually organized by overarching industries, so like we would have a big one for just agriculture, and that's one section, and then retail, and then maybe like food and something. So it would only be 6. But this looks like it's narrowed down by every single NAICS code that's out there. So this is a pretty big data table to look through. So it's going to tell you the number of establishments, employment, annual payroll. Honestly, if you're trying to find this information based on a geographic location, that the census, what was it called again? Datacensus.gov. That's probably your best bet because it's going to pull it together for you into one table. But you can look at this by subtopic that they've already pulled together for you under surveys and programs. Let's go ahead and click on all surveys and programs. Yeah, I'm not going to click on all of these, but just know that you can come in here and review all the surveys that they've done. On the other note here, you can do the same thing with, if you look at data tools and apps, it'll show you all of the different resources that they have where you can pull together information based off of what they've had. And maybe this is what I was using before, was the Census Builder. Oh, yes, it is. The Census Builder or Business Builder. And actually, this is what we already demoed, the small business. I'm not going to go into that again, but there's several different ways to find the same thing, apparently. Again, I apologize this isn't as clean as I was hoping to go, but thanks for sticking with me. The other thing I like to point out, and feel free to dig through these. I'm not going to go through all of them because not all of them are pertinent to business and management. There are some really cool ones in here if you just want to see what kind of information the government is tracking. The other thing I like to look at is this quick facts. So it'll kind of let you narrow it down by different overarching topics. So if we clicked on businesses, you can come in here and just kind of get your quick overarching information. Again, you can change this, do more in-depth searching if you want to. So I think that's another cool interactive search function that they have. But the one I really have wanted to play with a little bit more is Data Ferret. I just haven't played with that as much just because I need admin rights for some of it for my computer. And I don't, as far as having this be a work computer, I don't want to add it in. But it does look like it's a pretty cool resource if anybody's interested in looking at it. I don't see any questions set so far. Okay, so we'll move out of the US Census website. Again, I will update this page and replace the American FactFinder link on here with the datacensus.gov page. So it'll be there for you. And this page will be sent out to you after the webinar, and you can just click on it directly from the email that gets sent out. Okay, so let's move on to, we'll come back to that. I was going to walk you guys through the Bureau of Labor Statistics, but I think I'll use that as an example when we do a Google search. So in the library, I like to highlight this database just because it's one of my favorites. So if you go to databases A to Z, and actually it's probably on this page too at the very bottom. Yeah, it's here as well. So you can find this linked at the bottom of the page I'm going to send out to you, or you can go to the databases A to Z page. If you click on S, we're going to go to a database called SageStats. And so the nice thing about SageStats is that it does not change like the government websites, but it is pulling the same content or similar content from government websites. And I should say, if there is anybody who is researching data and statistics outside the United States, so if you're in Nigeria, if you are in Europe somewhere, if you're in China, we'll talk about trying to find government data through their websites as well. But just know that most of the resources that we have in the library or linked in the library are going to be US based, but that doesn't mean we can't help you try and find stuff through whatever country you're trying to research. So my friend SageStats here. So the nice thing that you can do here is you can either browse by topic, search by topic, you can search by location, you can search by whatever your topic is, although I would keep it broad. So if you were just looking at turnover, you could just type in turnover. And some of these are probably not going to be super pertinent since it looks like we're looking at crime rate here. But you can come in here and narrow down your search and hopefully be able to find what you're looking for. If we're going to try and figure it out from browsing, I think I would go under employment and labor. And then from here, you'll notice that they have the NAICS listing here as well. I'm sure we could come here with the NAICS codes and search directly. But you'll notice that there's a lot of different limiters on the left-hand side. So if we wanted something more recent than 1979, we could narrow down the date range. If there was a specific area, city, county, metro, state. Is it gonna let me do that? It is not. Okay. I for sure thought they were gonna let me do that. Doesn't look like it. Okay. And that's crazy that they have, I don't know what's going on there. All right, so then you come down here and narrow it down by industry. We're going to go ahead and say management of companies, enterprises, and that narrows it down to one. So it kind of has that same functionality that the data census.gov page has, where you can kind of start to narrow down your filters to find what you're looking for. And then you'll click on it and you'll get your data series related to what we were looking for here, employment and labor. And I don't remember what the other filters were that we clicked on, but it'll show you an interactive map. You can hover over the different sections. Let me see, median number of mid-March management companies and enterprises, employees of 340, number of locations with data. And then you have a legend here with that information. So you can look at it that way. You can look at it by table, and you can look at it by chart. One of the nicest things about SageStats is it's always going to tell you where they got that information from. So if you click on source, it'll tell you it got that information from the US Census, what year. They got it from the county business patterns, that thing we were looking at earlier, that for some reason was not letting me pull data. So maybe they're having something with their website. So not a problem, but just know that it'll always show you where they're getting that information from. And that's important because some government reports, sometimes you'll notice that they are actually citing like our proprietary market report like Gartner's or Gallup. And the reason they're doing that is because they don't want to have to take the time and energy to do that research themselves. So they'll just use a proprietary market report and cite that information. And that's tricky because that's not information that you're going to be able to use as far as your problem statement. Now, beyond that, I would ask your faculty, but just know that that's not going to work from your problem statement if you're a DBA student. So hopefully there aren't any questions about that. And click on location. Again, you can come in here and go by state, county, metro area, and city. And then again, you can narrow down by, let's pick on Colorado. And for some reason that didn't work. So let's pick on a county. And then you could come in here and look at information regarding that county, everything that, a lot of this is probably going to come from the US Census Bureau, but it's condensed in a way that's easier to sort through, at least I think it is. And that way you're not having to dig through the government websites quite as much. So SageStats is really great. You also have an advanced search function that, if you're not sure what to type in, you can start with, looking through limiters. If you're looking for an age demographic, data type, if you're looking at gender, unit of measurement, you've got a lot of different options here. So that's SageStats. And I don't see any questions about SageStats. So hopefully you guys like it as much as I do, or once you start playing with it, you'll like it as much as I do. I really love that database. Sage gives us 4 different databases, and I love them all. I think their content is wonderful. So if you have a chance to look at our other Sage databases, I really suggest that you do because they're outstanding. Okay, so let's do a search in one of our databases. To give you an idea of how to search for data, statistics, and articles. So I'm going to go to the business and management area, but just know if you're researching outside of that, again, if you're looking for health statistics and data that are related to maybe turnover, you could look in our health sciences databases or nursing, or if there's something else outside of our area, please don't hesitate to use those other program areas. That's what they're there for. But I'm just going to pick on business and management today. The next thing I'm going to do is click on business and management databases and then click on business source complete. So I think the #1 trickiest thing about researching for data and statistics and articles is that content isn't always it's not always searchable. So the content within the article isn't always going to be what the database is searching through. So you kind of have to focus on what the author might be discussing in the author abstract. And I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. So we're going to look at turnover, again, since it's my handy dandy go-to topic. And then something that students might be researching is, what is the cost of turnover in a certain industry? What's the price? What's the percentage of turnover in this industry? So what I tell the students is, don't try and search by a dollar amount. Don't use special symbols. The special symbols are not going to work. Like, I can't put $ in here. It's not going to search for that. Same thing for Google Scholar. It really has a hard time with search symbols, or with special symbols. So don't think about it as like what it might be typed in there as. Think about it as a topic. So you could say dollars or millions, but just keep in mind, if you type in millions, that could be millions of employees or something like that. But just think about it as, how would it be described? Is it going to be described as a percentage, or is it going to be described as a cost, or is it going to be described as a profit? So try and use words that are going to be describing that data or statistic that you're hoping to find in regards to the topic that you're researching. So the next thing you want to do is make sure that you click on peer-reviewed scholarly journals. Again, if you're not a DBA student, DIT student, PhD management student, or I should say doctoral student in general, you don't have to click on peer-reviewed scholarly journals if it's not a requirement. So if the article you're hoping to find isn't required to be peer-reviewed, you don't have to have that clicked. But I'm using this as an example for my doctoral students. But just know, if you're not, you don't have to click that unless it's required. So I'm going to go ahead and hit search. And so we've got about 1,300. So if we wanted to narrow this down even further, this one's perfect. So field evidence and implications for employee turnover and firm profits. So hopefully this article is going to be talking about the direct correlation between employee turnover and firm profits. And then we'll find something within that article that discusses a number or value that we can talk about in the problem statement. If we want to narrow this down a little bit further, we could change this to the AB abstract, and then it'll say or author supplied abstract. And what this is it's actually that little blurb when you click on the title. It'll show you what the author has described the article as discussing. So I'm going to go ahead and hit search again. And that narrowed it down a little bit, but I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. So if you click on this first title, you'll see that profits and, I'm surprised, employee, oh yeah, because I didn't put in quotes, but it's discussing profits in the abstract. It's unlikely that the author is going to talk about the exact number as far as profit or cost or turnover. It's unlikely that they're going to put those data points in the abstract. So you kind of have to do a broader search to get the hits that you're hoping to find. Hopefully there aren't any questions about that, but that is probably the easiest way to do it. Okay, so the other thing I want to show you, I'm going to go into the advanced search again. So if you wanted to come in here and look at employee labor and turnover and all this cost regarding a specific industry code, you certainly can. They have all the NAICS codes listed here too. So if you don't want to go back to the NAICS codes website and search for it there, it is listed. They even have the page linked there. Hopefully that's working. But you could come in here and find your NAICS code and search. These look pretty specific. I don't know how much we would find on employee turnover and shell phishing. So we probably won't do that, but just know that you could certainly pick something it's pretty broad that you would want to search. For this, we could try web retailers, sure. We might get 0, but I just wanted to show you how you could do it. So you'd come in here, you copy and you paste your NAICS code and hit search. Oh, we got 9, cool. So there's 9 articles that have been indexed with the NAICS code discussing web retailers and employee turnover, and then the cost percentage or dollars. So again, you can certainly search. Oh, and it took away my peer reviewed. We might lose everything there. Yeah. But you know, if I was going to come in here and do a search that's this specific, I would try a broader NAICS code, something that's more like general retail or a broader industry code. Because when you get that specific, you might hit a wall. Like if I was going to do that beauty salon search, I probably wouldn't even bother putting in the dollar amount here yet until I can find out how many articles are discussing the employee turnover and labor within that industry, and then kind of narrow it down from there. So any questions about searching in the databases by topic and kind of narrowing down for data statistics or looking by industry? I'll give you guys a minute. We've still got about 15 minutes left. So I know I've gone through quite a bit and a lot of information to absorb in a short time. So I just want to make sure you guys get what you need from it. Okay, cool. All right, I'm not seeing anything in that questions box. So the next thing I want to show you is a general Google search. So we know there's a lot of government websites to go through. And I showed you this page, the stats and data page, where you can search at the top based off of what we have in here. But if you feel like you need to go beyond that, and sometimes you do because you have a very specific topic. Again, you know, I'm going to pick on my employee turnover example just because it's my favorite go-to. You can search through government domains. So, and you can do this by country, or you can just do it. If you're in the US, it's just .gov, but if you're outside the US, it would be like uk.gov, or if you're in Nigeria, ng.gov. So you can certainly search by different countries' domains, and actually you can search through just a specific website domain, and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. So I'm going to put in employee turnover, and then I'm going to type in the word site, S-I-T-E, colon, and then I'm going to put in .gov. And so what this is going to do is it's going to look for any government websites mentioning the exact phrase of employee turnover. And it's probably going to find, it might find some articles that there's available on a government website. It's going to pull some, looks like some state information here. I'm actually, oh, you know what? If I put labor turnover, I was surprised that the Bureau of Labor Statistics had not popped up, but I think I would have had to have written in labor turnover, and then we would have gotten BLS. But just know you can certainly do a broad search and figure out, which federal government websites have some content. Now, if you're starting to look through, a state or a county, you can certainly narrow this down. So I'm going to pick on Texas since they popped into my results list here. So now I've got about 1,800 results of Texas government websites that talk about employee turnover. Now, if I had a subtopic that I wanted to add, we wanted to look at data or statistics. Great. So it looks like we have the state auditors page. We've got some information there looking for, you'll notice that the data or statistics will pop up as far as part of the results. So that's another way to search for relevant government websites to help you find the data and statistics that you're looking for. Again, if you're really overwhelmed by the Census Bureau, you could just put in Census. And look at that. All the pages, all the subpages on the Census Gov page that discuss employee turnover data and statistics. So if you have a big website like that, you can start to narrow it down. So I'm going to pick on, because of our topic, I'm going to pick on the BLS, Bureau of Labor Statistics, because that's another big one. Yep, so I have 75 results here. I think if I change this, yeah, they just, so some of the databases in some different government agencies will talk about employee turnover as labor turnover. So just keep that in mind. If you're kind of hitting a wall with whatever you're searching, a government entity or the databases might be describing it a different way. So if you start to see that there's another description or keywords that they're using, add that to your search. So we could say labor turnover or, oops. I just saw one. We'll just leave that. We can say labor turnover, employee turnover, and that upped our results list here. So if you went into the BLS, which I'm going to do that briefly just because I want you guys to, oh, and they updated their page too. Look at that. Great. The one section I would really suggest checking out is they do have subjects that you can look at, which is nice. Then you kind of know what section to dig into. So if you're looking for national employment or job openings or turnover, you can go directly there. Business employment dynamics. So that might be another one. Just figure out what the turnover is by industry. And then you can go here by tools too. And honestly, let's go look at the top picks. I'm curious to see what they did. Wow. Okay. So from here, a lot of these will give you the option to do a limiter based on what you're asking for. So if you're looking at employment rate, any other subtopics here, and then you can click on retrieve data. And then a lot of them, so some of these, as far as I remember, will let you narrow it down further. So if you're looking for labor force statistics on a specific industry or geographic location or demographics, you should be able to do that. But my guess now is now that they've re-indexed this website, that we could probably go under job openings and turnover and be able to find it this way. You're really throwing me through a loop here. Everybody's redoing their content. Yeah. So these are the databases that they usually have. So let's click on one of them. Great. So this is what I was talking about, is looking through limiters. So looking through industry, other sub limiters that you might be using, looking at geographic location. We'll say quits, and we'll say total non-farm. Oh, it looks like we need to add first. It's not going to let me do that. That's fun. Nothing like doing this in front of a crowd. Oh, goodness. Okay. All right, let's try this again. And rate. And get data. There we go. All right. So they build spreadsheets for us that we can download and look at based off of whatever we limited. So most of them should have the option where you can start to add filters based off of the data that they collected. So it's not always going to be perfect, and they're not going to generally tell you why, there was such a big turnover in a specific industry. Like I said, it's the what and not the why. So, oh, that is a good question. Oh, good. Okay. So the international organizations or countries, that is a great question because I didn't do an example of that in the Google search. So if we were looking for, I'm going to pick on Nigeria, you would find the domain name. And what I would do for that is, I think Wikipedia has a really good list, country domain list. Great. So it should have, so it'll give you an explanation of the different domains that they have. So .gov, which is general for the US. Now, but if you were looking for a specific country, you would come down here and figure out which country you're hoping to focus on. I was focusing on Nigeria just because I have some lovely Nigerian students and they are oftentimes researching their country. And so I try and help them find government sites or information from local websites or local agencies. So let's go ahead and borrow Nigeria. So you would say ng.gov. And I probably did not do the best search on that. So let's try and keep this a little bit broader. Oh, geez. And still not working. Let's try the UK. No. Interesting. Maybe it's .uk. There it is. Okay, I just had them turned around. Okay, so it'll be gov. Whatever country domain name is. There we go. Finally got it. So you would figure out what your country domain name is and add that to part of the gov. Or, if you're looking for organizations from Nigeria, depending on what you're hoping to find. If you find one that you're interested in, you want to search through further, let's go back to the government website here. Great. You could, I'm trying to find one here that might be helpful. We've got IRS, pension. I'm not even sure which one to choose here, but you could grab whatever website looks most relevant to you. Again, and just like the ones that you would do for the US government, you would just copy the domain name here. I run the search. And then if you had a topic that you're interested in, we'll say turnover. And it's not letting me do that. That's fun. Okay. Just know you can still search through government domain outside the US. If you're having difficulties with that, please reach out to the library, email us, or make an appointment with me, and we can work on it one-on-one. Each government is going to have different ways of doing this, having different agency names. So it's not always clear and it requires a little bit of extra research, but we are absolutely happy to help you with that. Okay. There's a question that said, ask if this is always accessible, and I'm not sure if that is in regards to the webinar or if it was something I was looking at. So another question popped in, which search website is the most recommended? So if you were looking for government agencies that are talking about a specific topic, Google's fine. You could come in here and search and use the domain name and your topic and try and find something that's relevant to you. I'm sure Bing or any other search engine on the web has something very, very similar where you can narrow the search by domain. I just tend to default to Google. But if there's something more specific than that, please do let me know and I can provide you with a better suggestion if I can. So, all right, guys, we've got 3 more minutes. Are there any other questions? And if there's something I can't answer in 3 minutes, I will follow up with you. For the student who asked me if this is accessible, I'll follow up with you and get a little bit more context for that and see if there's something I can assist you with. So, all right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for attending today. After the webinar is over, there'll be an option for completing a survey as far as how well I did today. Positive, critical feedback, both are great. Hopefully next time I do this, I'll be more equipped with the new websites that they've rolled out, new search function data tools. So thank you again for attending today. Please do provide me with feedback, good and bad. I want to do better next time. And hopefully I'll see you at another webinar, and keep an eye out for the recording in your email. So thanks again, guys. I hope you have a great rest of your week.